If you fell for that, you must be new. Hi, Little V here. Yes, you can use my music. No, I don't do tabs. If this is your first time hearing my voice outside of music, that's totally fine. I don't do these very often. Is there a thing for like annual vlogs? Because I feel like I'm setting a trend of annual vlogs. Man, it's kind of nuts that tomorrow is a new year and a new decade, 2020. Like I think about all the stuff that's happened this decade, and it's kind of nuts. I kind of can't wait to see the next decade. Anyways, before I start waxing poetic and getting all philosophical on your asses. So first, some housekeeping items. I will be at MagFest in, 3 days? 2 days? Whatever it is, whatever the Thursday is. I'll be there all weekend. Not going in any sort of official capacity. I'm just going to hang out, have a good time, see some friends, make some new ones, play Taiko Drum Master till about 5 o'clock in the morning. Also, on that note, if you do manage to spot me at MagFest, please don't be afraid to come up and say hi. I'm not that scary of a person. And also, I'm not that very little. I'm 6'2", so I stand out of a crowd pretty hard, so you might spot me. Second thing, I've been getting this question basically ever since the song got released. When is Battle Cry coming on to music platforms? I do not have power over that. You want to actually message AEW to get them to put it up. Because, yeah, they technically own the song right now. So, yeah, I can't do anything. Trust me, I want to put it up too. But, yeah, sorry. Oh, also, I picked up the YouTube light. It's this giant star that's currently inhabiting my room right now. It's that an Aperture 120D, I think is what it is. It's really cool. It's really neat. I'm just trying it out right now for the first time. And I think my favorite feature so far is it's wireless, so I can do this. All right, now we've hit the point of self-reflection and philosophy and reflecting on my life up to this point and such. So if you don't care, you can leave. It's fine. You don't need to stick around for this. All right, so first off, this video is definitely, it's for me. It's not so much for you guys. It's more just self-reflection and something to kind of leave future V to look back on and go, oh, wow, you're an idiot. Because I definitely feel like that was this decade. I keep looking back and going, wow, that was a stupid decision. But it's one of those things where you kind of had to live through it to really understand it was a stupid decision and not just someone telling you it was dumb. You know what I mean? It's dumb. Life's weird. All right, so there's 3 things I want to talk about that happened this decade. And when you think about it in terms of a decade, man, that's not a lot of time that's passed and a lot of stuff has happened. All right, so first thing, I turned 18 at the start of this decade, which means I have been an adult. This is the first decade of which I have been an adult for the entire
decade.
I use that term lightly because I've kind of come to learn that you don't really become an adult until your mid-20s, but you're legally an adult. So this is my first real adulting decade, getting a job, trying to get my life together, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do and plan everything out instead of just sitting at home playing video games. Although there was lots of that, and there have been a bazillion life moments to count. There's been a lot of good, there's been a lot of bad, and I'm not going to go into all the details of everything because that's going to be a 5-hour-long video and probably not nearly as entertaining. So let's start with possibly the craziest fact about me you guys watching probably don't know. I started off this decade not knowing how to play guitar, not knowing how to sing, not knowing how to record music, not knowing how to work a camera. I am now ending this decade as a guitar player with endorsements, a vocalist that's okay, let's be honest, I'm okay. A full-on channel and career of making music videos at this point, essentially, and making music for wrestlers and for video games and working with some titans in this industry like Mick Gordon. So, yeah, that's weird. If you go back and there's on my Bandcamp page, littlevbandcamp.com, there's an album, I use that term very loosely, called Warlord. And that is the first thing I have ever really recorded and released. And it is a 5-song EP. And it is my first attempt really at recording music, at trying to play all the instruments myself. And boy, it's rough. But I also feel like it's a really good thing to look back and reflect on because that's where you start. You start sounding like shit. That's how you do. It's anything. Doesn't matter what you do. It could be music, could be art, could be a trade, could be school, could be sciences, anything like that. You start off bad because you don't know what you're doing, because it's your first time doing it. So it's really cool, honestly, to be able to look back and go, oh, okay. It's especially awesome for those days when you're like, oh my god, I'm an imposter, I'm fake, oh god, there's people who are better than me, I'm not growing, and you can look back and go, oh yeah, I sucked. I suck less now, but I sucked more back then, so I must be doing something right. So hopefully that's a little inspiring, because, yeah, I started from the bottom. Now we, in the middle? I wouldn't say we're here, but, like, you know, I'm making a living off music, and I'm feeding myself, and I can buy small suns to put into my room. The other, like, really huge thing is my personal life. I used to talk about it more on YouTube, because it was kind of like my vent into the world, because I was a frustrated, angsty teenager / early 20s / mid 20s who was kind of using it to kind of hide my insecurities, because I wasn't quite sure who I was as a person yet. And, yeah. But there's a couple things, this is mainly, again, for, like, future V to look back on. And I had a really crazy thought. And I started off this decade. One of the first thoughts I had this decade, I would have just flown back home from visiting my, at the time, girlfriend, Jill, who I would have been dating at this point for 6 months. This was a long-distance relationship at this point now. And one of the first thoughts I had this decade was, I gotta move back to my hometown. I gotta be with this woman. I think she's the one. And now I'm ending the decade with, hey, you want to get married? Yeah. That's a weird one. That was one of those weird, like, fairy tale moments where, like, you know, you puke rainbows because it's so, like, magical. It hurts your stomach. And yeah, so that's a thing. And couldn't be happier, honestly. I think I locked down the one pretty early on, and she's fantastic. Oh, and I should probably talk about the elephant in the room of my life. There's a lot of good things that's happened. I've done work with Mick Gordon, obviously with Kenny Omega. I've made a career out of music. But there are a couple elephants in the room. Some of you know, some of you don't. 2013 was a bad year. That was getting laid off from my job, in that they just closed the building. This was a Future Shop at the time. And with Best Buy, basically, the Canadian equivalent. And then, by the way, they don't exist anymore. They closed down completely. Wonder why. Then my literal Santa Claus died. Good friend of mine, who was my first boss. I sold hot dogs for him. Literally my Santa Claus as a kid. And then a week after that, my dad passed away from a heart attack. And that one was March 31st. Because I remember going, is this a really crappy April Fool's joke? And so that would have been Easter of that year as well, too. So just kind of like a bam, 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 bam. That definitely had a huge effect on my life and my whole thought process of this last decade. Because that really kind of helped put things into perspective, that time's finite. Also was very close to my dad. Very, very close to my dad. Yeah. So that was rough. Yeah, that put a lot in perspective. That was one of those things that kind of like lit a fire under my ass to be like, all right, you might have 50, 60, 70, 80 years. You might have 10. I might as well just go full tilt into whatever I want to do and at least attempt it. Sorry, that got dark. That probably got very dark, but that was a big one. Oh, and then on top of that, about 4 months later, my family dog died. So, yeah, it was a rough year. 2013 was a bad year for me. That was a big smack of reality upside the head. So, yeah. But I really feel like that helped kind of shape who I am today. It gave me a lot of perspective on life, which I didn't quite get then, but I definitely understand more of now, especially in the last couple years of just kind of like trying to figure my shit out. So, yeah, that was a big one. Other things that happened. I guess we can talk about this year. I haven't really talked much about this year yet. Kenny Omega slid into my DMs straight up. Like, I believe the message was, hey, sorry to slide into your DMs, but you're Canadian, I'm Canadian. So that's a cool thing, and super glad to have that opportunity. It was very, very cool. Also, I had some other projects I was working on, but I can't really talk about them. They're very cool, but it's like NDA stuff, so hopefully I'll be able to talk about them at some point. We'll see. Oh, went to Japan for the first time ever. That was another thing that happened this year. Proposed in Japan as well, too. That was very cool. Japan is a very awesome place and a very interesting place in that you can very clearly see the ups and downs of like Japanese society. I love the convenience of everything. I love the service of everything. But we definitely played a game, especially in Tokyo. Tokyo, we notice a lot of like, hey, can't tell if that salaryman is hungover from a party last night or has crippling depression from all the societal pressures that are on him. Ooh. Also, what's the number? What's the official number? The current subscriber count for the channel is 367,000 subscribers. That's nuts. Like my little monkey brain can't really like put that into it. Like that's 1/3 of a million people subscribe to this moron in his office making music and hopefully making a headbang and or laugh and or both. That's another thing too. I kind of stopped caring about the numbers and like the game of YouTube and the kind of the game of social media. That was another thing that happened this year too. I kind of just went, you know what? No, I don't care. I'm gonna just do what I want to do. I'm gonna make what I want to make. And I mean, while this is arguably the best year I've had on YouTube, another big thing I did this year, possibly one of the most important things I did this year. I took all of my social media off my phone. There is not a single bit of it on my phone anymore, other than like just a web browser and my email. That was probably one of the best decisions I've made in my life. The weirdest part was I experienced withdrawals in that first week. Like I was jonesing, or like anything else, like trying to like kick a coffee habit or a sugar habit. That was a big one. And I highly recommend doing it. So yeah, basically I only use social media when I'm at work. Yeah, so that was this decade. Sorry, that kind of got a little heavy there at one point. Just wanted to make this video so that I have something from future me to look back on and go, oh, this is where my headspace was. Interesting, because I think about where my headspace was even a couple years ago and it was not in a good place. And yeah, so here we are, going into 2020 with a however hell of long this video is going to be long. I know it's going to be long. I rambled a lot. And yeah. Be good to each other. Try things you want to try. It's okay to suck at things. Try to give less fucks about the things that don't matter. All right, this video is way too long and it got way too weird. Rock on. Peace out. We will see you next decade. Boy, you don't get to say that very often. Have a good one, guys.